Welcome. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. Excuse me. Welcome, everyone. So glad that you could join us. We have about 4 or 5 more people who are supposed to be joining us shortly. Pardon me while I get rid of a scratchy throat. So we'll just hold the space in chant, and those of us who've been on Zoom a lot know that when we take ourselves off of mute and try and sing together, we get the Tower of Babel. So, but feel free to sing along with me with your microphone muted. We'll chant for another couple of minutes until a few of the others who said that they're coming join us, and then we'll begin. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. No, this has no water. Welcome, everyone. Others will be able to join us as they are able. So, but I also want to honor those of you who were here on at the beginning to make sure that I use your time with the grace that you've given me. So, welcome to the first dwelling in the luminous dark. I'm so glad that you decided to join me tonight. I also want to acknowledge and thank the Chinook peoples who were the guardians of the land on which I live in earlier times. And I invite you to take a moment to send a thought of gratitude to the indigenous ancestors of the lands where you live. I'd like to start first by telling you a little bit about me and what you'll experience tonight. I'm an interfaith minister, chaplain, and spiritual director, and my personal faith journey has been nourished by the Jewish tradition. My journey to Judaism, however, took me from a Catholic childhood through a Protestant young adult life to finally converting to Judaism 24 years ago. I'm also a Reiki master in the Usui Holy Fire tradition and lineage. And so I bring all of that with me. It's one of the reasons why I chose to have an interfaith ordination, so that I could bring all of who I am to my faith journey, as well as being present for others as wherever they are in their own faith journey, without any of the limitations that any one tradition can bring to how we see the divine, experience the divine, and live within the divine. I chose luminous dark for a very particular reason. This is a term that was originally coined by a Black theologian, by Howard Thurman, who used it in speaking about the experience of Black folk in the life that they've had to live, trying to live a faithful and spiritual existence. It's the foundation for what later became Black liberation theology. But it also comes from both a Jewish and a Muslim understanding of the divine as more than light and white. The luminous dark is that pregnant pause. It's where our creativity forms. It's mystery, it's possibility. It is the dark of the new moon. Our gathering will take us through a form that is similar to what is experienced in traditional Rosh Chodesh or new moon celebrations that Jewish women have been gathering around for many years. But this time we'll also be adding in some of the spiritual traditions of other communities and other parts of the world. And we also will include, tonight we have Tom with us, and hopefully in future nights, other men and non-binary folks may join us as well. I'd like to open us now up and invite each of you to introduce yourselves. Since I'm not sure that we'll all be on the screen in the same order, I'll say your name, and then if you could unmute yourself and tell us what brings you to wanting to celebrate the new moon tonight. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, and welcome to all of you. I'd like to start with doing just a little teaching to sort of ground us in the history and the hope of our relationship with the new moon. So Judaism, like many indigenous traditions, has a deep relationship with the new moon. Traditionally, in most earth-based traditions, the moon represents the divine feminine, the indwelling presence of the divine. The moon controls not only the tides, but women's cycles. The dark of the new moon, is a time for introspection, dreaming, creativity. The moon and the earth are in a relationship with the waxing and the waning and the dark of the moon and the full moon, the low tides, the high tides. We're reminded of the interconnectedness of all life. My spiritual journey has been deeply affected by the ways that we've lost that relationship with the earth as well as with the divine feminine. And I think both are really needed right now, particularly in these times of anxiety and trauma, reconnecting with that sense of the divine feminine who is Rachaman. The Jewish means womb love, but we translate it as compassion. That deep in our gut, when we know somebody is hurting and we want to reach out to them. When I talk about the divine feminine, and right now everyone in the room except for my beloved is a female-bodied person, I'm not specifically saying women versus men. I think the Eastern traditions are really very wise when they remind us that all peoples, whether we are masculine, male or female or non-binary, contain within us all genders. The yin is within the yang, and the yang is within the yin. The Psalms have an image of the divine as a mother eagle. And we refer in one part of Exodus to Moses as a nursing mother. So there's been a lot of understanding that which we try to define as divine is above and beyond any one gender. It has been heavily held by the masculine gender and patriarchal society for a very long time. And so at this time when our planet is crying out, at this time when so many people are lost and confused, we need our mama. The Quechua people of Peru have a really lovely tradition where when a newborn is brought into the world, the first thing they do is they lay it within a shallow dip in the earth, so that the very first one to hold that child is Pachamama, the earth mother, the divine mother. In both India as well as in Ireland, Danu is that creative force, the feminine goddess who birthed all other gods within their pantheons. They both are water goddesses. You know, the Danube River, which connects east to west, is named for her. And similarly, Gaia, who is the Roman embodiment, is said to have created herself out of chaos. All of these different divine mothers have been in our archetypal memory in different ways throughout traditions, even when we're no longer associated with a particular tradition. Within Genesis, which is the story of creation which most of us in the dominant society has grown up with, we got a slightly different message. We got a message that God, who was personified as male, had just blown over the dark and deep chaos to begin the creative process. But there's another story, even within our tradition. There have been hundreds of clay statues found throughout Israel, throughout Jerusalem and some of the other oldest cities, of a goddess. No male gods, just this one particular goddess. Her name was Asherah. And what we're learning from archaeology and from scholars is that Asherah was considered the spouse, the wife of El. El was in the Canaanite pantheon considered the sky god and the god of the sun, whereas like Danu and Gaia, Asherah was a water goddess, nurturing, bringing that living fluid to the community. Within that tradition, we've come to realize that Asherah was never vilified or considered, something different by many of the country folk within Israel, within the early Israel traditions. Really until the Israelites came back from the exile in Babylon. There was an Asherah tree, rather than a statue of clay, a post that represented Asherah stood in the temple in Jerusalem. When I think about all of that, and then I hear this first verse of scripture where we say, Breshit, Breshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginnings, God created the heavens and the earth. I can't help but wonder, Elohim, not El, Elohim, gods. We say that it's the name of God in the Hebrew tradition, but it's plural. So I can't help but call in that energy, that masculine and feminine energy, El and Asherah, cosmos and the earth. Judaism also has its own Big Bang theory. The Kabbalistic mystics teach that when God contracted God's self to make space for creation, divine light was put into clay vessels, but the energy was of such a magnitude that the vessels shattered. And everywhere in creation, embedded the divine indwelling presence within every person, every plant, every animal, every rock. We call that indwelling divine presence Shekhinah, the indwelling feminine aspect of the divine. But there's a lot of evidence that Asherah evolved into Shekhinah. So even within a patriarchal tradition, the mother couldn't be completely sublimated. We get to draw on those feminine energies. This particular new moon, it also begins the Hebrew month of Shvat, which on the 15th of the month, at the full moon, Tu B'Shvat, is called the New Year of the Trees. So even in the dead of winter, as we think of it as this dark and frigid time, there's life happening underneath the earth. The sap is rising in the trees, and soon we'll be seeing an explosion of crocuses and cherry blossoms, and in Israel, almond blossoms. In the dark is where new life begins. We're going to transition now into a guided meditation so that we might each connect with our own divine feminine, within our own creative sources. But first, we're going to center ourselves with another chant. The difference between a chant and a song, aside from the repetitive nature of them, is that something really beautiful happens at the end of a chant, in the silence that immediately follows a chant. It's in that silence that we hear in the reverberations the voice of the divine. So I'm going to invite you as we sing this next chant, and when we come into the quiet that follows it, that you just let yourself settle in to that space that is the quiet. Let your eyes close if that's your preferred method of meditating, or just, let go of the focus and settle into your body as I will guide you in the guided meditation. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Now settle into the silence. Feel your feet and your spine resting on the floor and in your chair. Slowly breathe in the luminous dark of the moon. Feel the energy of the moon as it enters through the top of your head, flowing down your spine, filling you with divine light. Now feel this energy continue to flow to the base of your spine and to your feet. Sense it flowing through you into the chair, the floor, the ground, and deep into the earth. Sit gently in the flow of that divine energy. Now imagine that you are in the most beautiful place you've ever been. Feel the light on your face, the dirt beneath your feet. Smell the soil, flowers, and trees which surround you. There's a path nearby that leads to a river. Follow this path. Soon you'll see a bridge made of light, which draws you over the river. The brilliance of the bridge sparkles on the water as you pass over it. On the other side, you see a clearing ahead that leads to a gentle knoll. On top of the knoll is a majestic tree and a place to sit under its shade. There's someone sitting on the bench. Go and join them. They are ancient and beautiful. And they look at you with deep love. You feel safe, seen, and unconditionally loved by this presence. This holy and wise being is offering you a gift. She places it in your hands. And you recognize it. It's yours. It's your own creation, which in the busyness of life you set aside and lost. The goddess doesn't hold any judgment, but instead looks to you with delight and anticipation. What will you create next? When you're ready, thank the Ancient One and begin your walk back, carrying her gift to you. Climb down the knoll and onto the bridge of light, pausing to look back as she watches you go, knowing you can return to her whenever you wish. You cross the bridge and return to the path, feeling the light on your face and the earth under your feet. You return to where you began and once again enter the flow of divine light. Gently re-enter your body, feeling your feet, your spine, your muscles, your breath. The flow does not leave you, but when you are ready, gently open your eyes. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Does anyone want to share what they experienced? You can unmute yourself when you're ready. So one of the things that's bubbling up for me is I'm thinking particularly about Danu, and she's the green goddess over there, closer to you than to me. And Danu was a goddess of creativity. You know, she, as I said earlier, was the mother of the pantheon of gods, both in India and in Ireland, which is amazing that two such disparate locations have the same word for very much the same archetype. The idea of the source of all creativity, the source of everything, flowing through us like a river. It's in this quiet time, in the dark of the moon, that women would gather. I don't know if any of you have read The Red Tent, which was a book by Anita Diamant. If I'm saying her name correctly, I'm kind of blanking on it at the moment. But it's the story of the foremothers within Scripture, and how at their moon time, they would go together into the red tent, and they would tell the stories, and they would sing the niggins, and they would support one another wherever they were in the cycle of life. There's a beautiful image of them, you know, being present to someone giving birth, holding her in their arms as life flowed through her into the world. So it's a time of creativity. So one thing that the astrology folk would say is that at the new moon, you put out your intentions, your wish, your hopes for the coming month, and with the idea of celebrating them at the full moon. So there's correlations in all kinds of traditions and modalities. So what I want to invite us to do now is to just take about 10 minutes. But first I have a question. Did everyone take a look at the program beforehand or not? Because, okay. So for those who didn't, no worries. What I invited everyone to do is to have a piece of paper handy and, you know, pencil or pen or colored pencils, and to either write or draw what you'd like to manifest in this next month. You know, it doesn't have to be a thing. It might be that you want to work on a relationship, maybe even the relationship with yourself. So I want to invite you to just take a moment, take the energy from your time in the meditation, listen to what's on the stillness and quiet of your own heart, and just take a couple of moments, no more than 10, to write or draw your creation. And at the end of that, we're going to do a small ritual with that. If you don't have any of the materials handy, not to worry. We can be creative in our own minds. We can hold the intention of our creativity within our hands. Those of us who do Reiki, I know when I'm sending distance Reiki to someone, I'll hold my hands together as with a cup in between, cupping it in between, so that the energy is sort of bottled and juicy in the hand. So whether you're creating with paper or just with your mind, sit with that possibility. We're going to sing another song while you're making your creativities, and when I have a sense that everybody is done, then I will bring the song to a close, and we'll move into the next step. Breath my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Breath my body, fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth our body, water our blood, air our breath, and fire our spirit. Ritual is the way that our ancestors embodied their hopes and their dreams. It was in the letting go at the conclusion of the ritual when we knew to release our prayer into the realm of possibility so that it might unfold in its proper time. So we're going to do another simple little ritual. And if you looked ahead, you saw that I invited you to find a pot and some potting soil and some early growing seed, whether it's a pea or a flower or whatever. If you weren't able to do that, just hold your creation in your hands as a container. But I want to invite you to either fold or cut up, tear up your creation and put it into the soil before planting your seed, so that it, like the seed, may grow into fruition. This is an earth sign month, and so it's a time of getting deep into the soil. And one of the things that I love how science is catching up with what our wisdom teachers have always told us. But soil, getting our hands in the dirt, literally, without the gloves and everything that we do to keep our nails pretty and everything. There are microbes within soil that connect to our serotonin inputs and raise our level of joy. So I invite you to take your creation, put it into, focus for me for a second. Put it into the bottom of your pot. And then take the soil, cover it liberally, and then put in one of your seeds. I can't get my finger in there. Oops. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ah. We'll put the rest of it in ourselves later. Knowing that that will create new life and new possibilities. While you finish up, there's a planting song by Rabbi Hannah Teferet Siegel that I think embodies everything we love about being in connection with our Mother Earth. With my hands, I plant a seed. With tenderness and care, I watch it grow. I do not know what will be, but I have faith in the wisdom of the sea. With my words, I plant a seed. With tenderness and care, I watch it grow. I do not know what will be, but I have faith in the wisdom of the sea. Angels are blessing everything that grows. In sunshine, rainfall, and when the wind blows. With my love, I plant the seed. With tenderness and care, I watch it grow. I do not know what will be, but I have faith in the wisdom of the sea. With my dreams, I plant the seed. With tenderness and love, I watch it grow. I do not know what will be, but I have faith in the wisdom of the sea. Ancient Mother, Shekinah, Danu, Gaia, Pachamama, Divine Source, who creates all life on this planet, let your creativity flow through each of us. That our hopes, dreams, and prayers may be made manifest. May this or something even better come to be. Amen, Amen, blessed be. Before we formally bless the new moon and close our celebration, I want to open up the circle again for any prayers or affirmations or something about your creative process of the ritual that's on your heart that you'd like to share. Utilizing the translation of the New Moon Blessing written by Rabbi Marsha Falk. May the month of Shvat, January, be a month of blessing. Blessings of goodness, blessings of joy, peace and kindness, friendship and love. Creativity, strength, serenity, fulfilling work and dignity. Satisfaction, success and sustenance. Physical health and radiance. May truth and justice guide our acts and compassion temper our lives. That we may blossom as we age and become our sweetest selves. May it be so. Thank you for joining me. I pray that this month is full of blessings for each of you. And hopefully you will join us next month. The closing song that I've chosen is written by Rabbi Hannah. And the Hebrew word for the world is olam. And the name of her song is Olam Mama. Just as those indigenous folk in Peru have Pachamama, Olam Mama. So I know on the program I gave you all of the verses. We're not going to do all of the verses. We'll just do the chorus, the first verse, and then the chorus again. And then we'll close. Ola mama, I love you so. Ola mama, just wanna let you know. Ola mama, I love you so. You're the mother of all spring, winter, summer, and fall. I love you so. I love to run through a field where wildflowers grow, to swim in a lake and to slide on the snow, to drink the sweet water that flows in a stream. Oh, how you bless me. I love the wind that blows through the trees in the sun, flying on a beach in the warm when it's sand when it's warm, the whales and dolphins that dive in the sea. Oh, how you bless me. Ola mama, I love you so. Ola mama, just wanna let you know. Ola mama, I bless my soul. You're the mother of all, spring, winter, summer, and fall. I love you so. Thank you for joining me.